National Team 1907, next Sunday at 9 on BBC One.
Mr. Tony Hancock.
I'm sick of all these gags and routines. Real comedy has got to get to the core. I can't do it without you. Come with me, please, Joan.
Hancock and Joan, Wednesday at 9 on BBC 4.
The news now on BBC One with Matthew Amroli-Waller.
Ministers try to head off an MP's revolt over new laws on embryo research. Some MPs are concerned about creating embryos which combine human DNA and animal cells. The young British teacher murdered in Japan, her family appeal again for help in catching her killer.
He committed a dreadful act on my sister. It wasn't just murder, he beat her. And that's why he needs to be caught, he needs to be taken off the streets.
Easter baptisms, but a chilly warning from the Church of England about luxury lifestyles. And face off at the top. Arsenal lose to Chelsea, but United beat Liverpool to extend their lead in the Premiership. Good evening. Ministers are trying to find a way to head off a revolt by MPs over new legislation on embryo research. Some MPs are deeply concerned about letting scientists create embryos which combine human DNA and animal cells. But the government is determined not to back down. It's looking at ways to get the bill approved without forcing MPs to vote against their consciences. Laura Koonsberg has this report.
Medicine has moved on, but the law has lagged behind. It's nearly 20 years since the first legislation on research using embryos was put on the statute books. And ministers want new regulations, including proposals that permit the creation of so-called hybrid embryos. And it's that combination of human and animal materials that has proved so controversial. Human DNA would be mixed with an animal egg, which has had its nucleus removed. The resulting embryos would be grown in a lab for a few days, but it could only happen under strict rules. The material could be used for just a fortnight and could not be implanted in a woman or an animal. Those who back the bill say the research could unlock the secrets of conditions like Parkinson's and muscular dystrophy.
In terms of the ethics, I think we have a moral imperative as scientists and clinicians to try and find cures for these horrible diseases.
But the Catholic Church is firmly opposed and is demanding that the government allows its MPs to vote as they wish.
I hope politicians, particularly the Catholic ones, would listen to what I have to say. But when the chips are down, I don't interfere. I say to them, you are politicians, you have a task to do, you've got to vote, but do it according to your informed conscience.
Gordon Brown knows all too well many of his MPs have concerns, and he might allow backbenchers to abstain when it comes to a vote. But there are worries at the highest level. It's understood 3 cabinet ministers, all Catholics, are concerned. The Welsh Secretary, Paul Murphy, Des Brown, the Defence Secretary, and Transport Secretary, Ruth Kelly.
The Prime Minister has made it clear that people's conscience will be respected, as it was in the House of Lords. Now let's get on and debate the actual important things here, not the second-order issues, but what this bill is all about.
Those on the government side have hit back with this letter sent to every MP. More than 200 charities write of their joint belief that this new law will be essential. But those who object are unlikely to fall silent before MPs vote later this spring. It'll take a while to unravel this difficult tangle of politics, morals and medicine. Laura Koonsberg, BBC News, Westminster.
Well, to find out more about hybrid embryos, just go to bbc.co.uk/news and navigate to the relevant question and answer page. Now, it's emerged tonight the government is considering plans to ban cigarette vending machines from pubs and restaurants in England. The move would also make it illegal to display tobacco products in corner shops and supermarkets, which could effectively force them to be sold under the counter. It's thought a consultation process on the different options and the costs involved will begin in a few weeks' time. The family of a British teacher murdered in Japan have flown to Tokyo to make a new appeal to find her attacker. Lindsay Ann Hawker was found on a balcony in a bathtub filled with sand. Police have named a man they think killed her, but a year on, he's still not been caught. Matt Prodger has the details.
A year on, still seeking justice. The family of Lindsay Hawker today left Britain for Japan in search of her killer.
The main reason we're going is for Lindsay, not for people to see what an awful, terrible year we've had. We're doing it for one reason, and while Tatsuya Ichihashi is still alive and still free, we'll not give up trying to find him. No way. He committed a dreadful act on my sister. It wasn't just murder, he beat her, and that's why he needs to be caught. He needs to be taken off the streets.
This is my house where I live in Japan.
22 years old and originally from Coventry, Lindsay Hawker had travelled to Japan to work as a teacher. After this home video was filmed, she crossed paths with this 29-year-old man, Tatsuya Ichihashi. Last year, Lindsay was approached by him about possible English lessons. She agreed to teach him at his home. 4 days later, they're seen on a CCTV camera at a coffee shop near Tokyo. The next day, Lindsay's employer reports her missing. Police discover Ichihashi's name, address and phone number at her home. They go to his flat, where Lindsay's strangled body is found. It was hidden in a sand-filled bathtub on the balcony. Ichihashi fled and hasn't been seen since. But police soon had these images of him from a security camera. Standing inside the elevator of the apartment block, preening himself in front of the mirror. And in recent days, they've created photo fits of how he may look now in disguise as a man or a woman. And they've revealed a picture of Lindsay he'd drawn and given her days before her murder. Written on it, his name, telephone number and email address. But despite trawling the bars and back streets of downtown Tokyo, they have yet to find him. Matt Prodger, BBC News.
The Archbishop of Canterbury has used his Easter message to warn against pursuing a life of luxury and comfort. Dr. Rowan Williams told worshippers that modern lifestyles were anxious and acquisitive, while the thought of death was too painful to manage. In Rome, meanwhile, Pope Benedict christened a controversial Muslim convert to Christianity. Robert Piggott has more.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
The fundamental Easter message of spiritual salvation out of earthly death was dramatically enacted in York in open-air baptisms. The Archbishop of York, John Sentamu, submerged the church's latest members in water to signify their death and rebirth. The Archbishop of Canterbury, Rowan Williams, chose the end of earthly life as his theme. He said nations and peoples seized material goods to provide a security that was bound eventually to dissolve with death. Amid the splendour of Christianity's principal festival in one of its finest cathedrals, it sounded a sombre note. Dr. Williams said society was unable to cope with death, but sought refuge in transitory comforts and luxuries.
When we look at death, we look at something that can destroy anything in our universe, but not God, its maker and redeemer. And if we accept that we shall die, and all our hopes and schemes fall into the dark, we do so knowing that God is unchanged.
The great thing is that when you're doing this, you can...
Bishops have been taking the same basic teaching of Christianity to the people this Easter. Last week, the Bishop of Birmingham, David Urquhart, polished office workers' shoes, imitating Jesus' act of service in washing his disciples' feet. Increasingly, the Church is facing up to the widespread public ignorance of its central beliefs.
I think the Church rightly sees that its main role is simply to tell the story of Christ's victory over death. That's the particular story at Easter, and that people shouldn't assume that we all know that already.
Pope Benedict also celebrated Easter with a baptism. A Muslim convert joined the church at its very heart. Outside in the pouring rain, the Pope delivered his Easter greeting to the world and prayed for peace, including in Iraq and Tibet.
Al-Iraq, al-Libano, infine al Tibet.
For the world's most intractable conflicts, the Pope called for solutions that safeguard peace and the common good. Robert Piggott, BBC News.
More and more school children are carrying knives and other weapons, according to the National Union of Teachers. A survey of its members found classroom behaviour is generally improving, but for about a quarter of schools, violence is still a daily problem. From Manchester, James Westhead reports.
While in most schools teachers said behaviour was slightly better compared to 7 years ago, in a small core today's survey found the possession of knives and drugs among pupils had risen sharply, with some teachers reporting them on a weekly, even daily basis.
I think we can blame a number of things. First of all, the development of gang culture. I think it's pretty obvious that on certain estates the development of gangs, and it's almost impossible for schools to prevent the influence of gangs intruding into schools.
The survey found 22% of teachers came across pupils carrying knives at least once a year, while over the same period, slightly fewer, 19%, reported pupils with drugs.
Yeah, it's looking like it. That's good.
This school in Essex has a zero-tolerance policy, and its head teacher says even schools in the toughest areas can be effective at stamping out bad behaviour.
Any student who puts a foot out of line in a class is only given 2 chances and then is removed for the rest of that lesson. So teachers know they have a very clear structure, very clear support to make sure there's no low-level disruption.
As well as behaviour, teachers' main focus at their conference today was excessive workload, after yesterday voting to ballot for strike action over pay and class sizes. Responding to the threat of strike action, the government has warned it will only harm pupils and insisted the pay offer of just under 2.5% is fair. But teachers here have rejected that and are now set for confrontation. James Westhead, BBC News in Manchester.
Now with news of those crucial games at the top of the Premiership and the rest of today's sport, here's Francis Collins.
Matthew, thank you very much indeed. Chelsea and Manchester United have both gained an edge over their rivals in the chase for the Premier League title after today's games. Didier Drogba's brace helped Chelsea to a 2-1 win over Arsenal, while Manchester United moved 5 points clear after beating Liverpool 3-0 at Old Trafford, but that wasn't the whole story. Andy Swiss watched both matches.
After a week of headlines about player conduct, what chance of a nice quiet Sunday? Well, none whatsoever. Liverpool's Javier Mascherano set the tone with his early booking, and it was United that kept their heads. The unlikely figure of Wes Brown scoring in equally unlikely style via the top of his back. Then the big talking point. Torres was yellow carded, Mascherano didn't agree, and referee Steve Bennett had had enough. He's off. Cue mayhem, with Mascherano having to be restrained by his manager. From a goal and a man down, there was simply no way back for Liverpool after the break. Cristiano Ronaldo with only his 34th goal of the season, and Nani wrapped things up in sumptuous style. He could be in here. United will be doing cartwheels, but after this latest refereeing controversy, Liverpool will be rather less amused. But not nearly as unamused as Arsenal. Their challenge has faded in recent weeks, and Chelsea were keen to take advantage. But they couldn't, and after the break, the Gunners made them pay.
Regards to Sagna, goal!
Not a bad time for Bakary Sagna to score his first Arsenal goal. But Chelsea haven't lost at home in the league for 4 years, and they soon showed why.
And it's Drogba!
Didier Drogba's equaliser couldn't quite crack a smile from his manager, but surely even he couldn't resist a cheeky grin when this happened.
Didier Drogba! He's done it!
Thanks to Drogba's late winner, Chelsea's title ambitions are still alive, but Arsenal know theirs may be slipping away. Andy Swiss, BBC News.
Celtic have once again clawed back Rangers' lead at the top of the Scottish Premier League. Scott McDonald, Jan Vennegoor of Hesselink, and then Georgios Samaras scored in their 3-0 win over bottom side Gretna. Celtic now 3 points behind Rangers ahead of next week's crucial Old Firm clash at Ibrox. Andrew Strauss is going to be a relieved man. He's finally justified his selection for the Tour of New Zealand. The Middlesex batsman scored his first half-century of the series in the second innings of the third and final test in Napier. England started the third day slowly, but are in a strong position to wrap up the series. Kevin Peterson, he's just gone for 34 runs. England, though, do have a lead of 235 runs. No real joy for Lewis Hamilton in the Malaysian Grand Prix this morning, although he finished in the points when he came home in 5th place. With world champion Kimi Raikkonen winning that Grand Prix, Hamilton's cause was further compromised by a poor first pit stop that was about 10 seconds too long. But Raikkonen won by 20 seconds from Sauber's Robert Kubica, with Heikki Kovalainen a further 19 seconds back in 3rd place. That is all the sport for now. Matthew.
Francis, thanks very much. Well, there's news throughout the night on BBC News 24, but from all of us here in the newsroom, a very good night.
Hello, good evening. No severe weather warnings to talk to you about tonight, at least. But we're not quite done with the wintry stuff yet. Hard frost tonight, certainly across northern and eastern parts of the British Isles.